Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach, and for today's rules recipe, we're going to be looking at the game The Fox in the Forest Duet.
Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
The ingredients that make up The Fox in the Forest Duet are a rule book, 30 cards of three different suits, some different tokens to represent forests, rubies, a player board, some player references, and a box that the game fits in just right. To set up The Fox in the Forest Duet, you'll first want to hand each player a reference card. Then you'll want to set the forest board on the table between the players with side A face up, oriented so that each player is facing one end of the forest path. You can use side B if you want to increase the difficulty of the game. You will then want to place the 12 gem tokens on the square location spaces connected to the forest path, with the number of tokens on each location space matching the number of hanging squares inside the location spaces from 0 to 2. Set the other gem tokens aside to form a supply. Then you'll want to place the 4 forest tokens nearby. Then you'll place the team tracker on the starting path space circled in the center of the board. After this is set up, you'll want to shuffle the 30 playing cards. After the cards are shuffled, you'll want to pick one player to be the dealer, and that person will deal out 11 cards to both players. These players may look at both cards, but may not reveal these cards to their teammate. You'll then take the remaining cards and place them face down, and then flip the top card up to be the trump card. After all this has been set up, the game can start. Each round will consist of a series of 11 turns known as tricks. During each trick, one player will lead or play the first card of the trick, and the other player will follow, playing the second card of the trick. Based on the suits and the ranks of the two played cards, one player will win the trick. Then the team tracker will move along the forest path toward the player who won the trick based on the movement values of the two played cards. The way a trick will work is that each player must play one card from their hand, one player being the leader and the other player following. During the first trick of each round, the player who did not deal leads. During each subsequent trick, the winner of the previous trick leads. The player who leads must play a card, but they may play any card from their hand without restriction. So this player will play a yellow 3. Then the other player must follow. After one player is led, the other player must follow by playing a card from their hand. The player who follows must play a card that matches the lead suit if possible, but the card may be of any rank in that suit. If they do not have a card in the lead suit, they may play any card from their hand without restriction. This player has a yellow card, so they will play the 1 yellow. After both players have played a card, we will determine the winner of the trick. To do this, you must take into account the ranks of the cards that were played, as well as the lead suit and the trump suit. If one or both players in the trick are in the trump suit, which is the suit based on the card on the top of the deck here, which is green, then the player who played the highest ranked card in the trump suit wins the trick. If only one player matched the trump suit, they will win the trick. Or, if neither card in the trick is the trump suit, the player who played the highest ranked card in the lead suit wins the trick. After the winner has been determined, you will move the team tracker. You'll add together the movement values of the two cards played in the trick, then move the team tracker that many spaces along the forest path towards the player who won the trick, unless specified otherwise. So in this case, we'll add up the 2 paw prints from this card with the 0 from this card, and move the tracker 2 spaces. And if, as in this case, the team tracker ends up on a space connected to a location space with 1 or more gem tokens, even if it did not move, provided it was not just reset after moving beyond the path, the players collect 1 gem from the location space, returning it to the supply. If you collect the final gem token from the board, the game ends in a victory. So we will remove that gem. If the team tracker would move beyond the last uncovered path space on either of the forest path, reset the team tracker to the start path space, which is the circled space in the center of the board. Then place a forest token so that it covers the last uncovered space on that end. This makes the path shorter for the rest of the game. If you do not have a forest token to place, the game will end in a defeat. If a forest token Ever covers a path space connected to a location with one or more gem tokens, move that gem token one location space closer to the center. Cleanup. After the team tracker moves, set the cards from the trick aside face down. During the round, neither player may look at the cards from the previous trick. At the end of the first and second rounds, carry out the following steps. At the end of the third round, skip the following steps and proceed immediately to the end of the game. First, you'll need to add one gem token from the supply to each location space with a plus icon connected to its border. Then, you'll place a forest token, if available, so that it covers the last uncovered path space on one end of the forest path, player's choice. This makes the forest path shorter for the rest of the game. If you do not have a forest token to place, nothing happens. The players may discuss on which end of the forest path they wish to place the forest token. Team Tracker. If the team tracker is at one end of the forest path, the players must place the forest token so that it covers the last uncovered path space on the other end. If a forest token ever covers a path space connected to a location space with one or more gem tokens, move that gem token one location space closer to the center. And lastly, you'll gather up all 30 of the game cards and reshuffle them. The player who did not deal the previous round will be the new dealer. That player deals each player a new hand of 11 cards for the next round. Set the remaining cards aside face down to form a new deck, and finally reveal the top card of the deck and place it next to the board face up as a decree card. End of the game. The game will end in one of three different ways. As soon as one of these end game conditions occurs, the game ends immediately. Victory. If you collect all the gem tokens from the board, the game ends in a victory. You can use the chart included in the rules to calculate a score for the game. Otherwise, you can end lost in the forest. If the team tracker would move beyond the last uncovered path space on either end of the forest path and you do not have any forest tokens to place, the game will end in a defeat. Or the game will end if you are out of time. If any gem tokens remain on the board at the end of the third round, the game ends in a defeat. Something to note, that if at any point it becomes impossible to collect all of the remaining gem tokens, you may choose to resign. Also remember that throughout the game, you may talk freely before dealing cards in the first round and between rounds, but during a round communication is limited. You may not talk about your cards, you cannot ask revealing questions, and you cannot discuss strategy. Like in the original Fox in the Forest, all the cards of odd value have special abilities which activate when the card is played. These cards have text explaining their abilities and how they function. For all of the one musician cards, the player who won the trick gets to choose whether to move the team tracker in the normal directions towards themselves or in the opposite direction along the forest path. When a 3 fox is played, the player gets to choose a player to exchange the decree card with a card from their hand. However, the chosen player is not required to exchange a decree card. It may stay the same. However, if they do choose to exchange, the exchange occurs immediately, and if the trump suit changes as a result of the exchange, it might affect who wins the trick. When a 5 gazelle is played, the winner of the trick may choose to ignore the movement value of one of the cards in the trick. For example, if the cards played in the trick have movement values of 1 and 3, the team tracker could move 1, 3, or 4 spaces towards the player who won the trick. If there are 2 gazelles played in the same trick, the winner may choose to ignore the movement value of 1, none, or both cards in the trick. Each gazelle allows the winner to choose up to 1 card to ignore. When anyone plays a 7 gift card, both players select a card from their hand and then exchange those cards with each other. When this card is played, the exchange occurs immediately. The exchange is mandatory provided both players have at least 1 card left in their hand. Each player must choose which card to give to their teammate without knowing which card they will receive in return. The players should pass the chosen card to each other at the same time. Lastly, when someone plays a 9 Royal Air card, when it's led, your teammate may play any card. They do not have to follow the suit. However, they may still choose to follow the suit. When this is the second card played in a trick, it has no effect. Something to note as you become more familiar with the game is that the rulebook provides ways to change the difficulty level based on setup. So, as you play the game more, you might want to spice things up a bit. I hope that gave you a good idea of how to play the Fox in the Forest Duet. If you have any other questions on how to play the game, please leave a comment below. Otherwise, check out our other videos for a quick overview of the game, a playthrough of the game, and our final thoughts on the game. Otherwise, keep on nibbling.